Alright, so we're doing a quick late night live. You know, I had a discussion with this, not a discussion, but a back and forth. And some of these so-called Christians, they're kind of funny, but um, they are, you know, Alan Watts said it best. He said, Western Christianity is basically a white supremacist, racist, fascist death cult. And it's true, right? And it's true. It just dumbs people down. Like when you see, like particularly like the black church and different churches, you tend to see just how, like they fuck people up, man. So, but anyway, I'm gonna, basically truth bomb them, right now, and we're gonna go over some things real quick. And on my main channel, I've done this before, but I just want to especially in the times that we're in, I figured, I'll do this on my new channel, my backup channel, and, a little late night occult Bible prophecy and study. So let's run through a few things, man. Like, we're going to talk about the real Bible, not that, Western Christianity. Like, Western Christianity is a white supremacist, racist, death cult propaganda tool put forward by actually Satan. And you said, well, who is Satan? Satan is a reptilian. Comes out of it's basically a description for the Antichrist, Satan, etc. When you talk about that, what are you talking about? You're talking about basically the groups of alien, a leadership, a leader, right? You talk about Antichrist, and aliens that have invaded the planet and been here for hundreds of years, maybe if not thousands, and who hijacked and created Western Christianity. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that what I'm saying sounds crazy, but that whole thing is in the Bible, right? Is really a large part of what the Bible is about. And I'm going to go over that real quick. So, and you find it all throughout the Bible, right? It's a cult. When I say a cult just means hidden, right? So you find the hidden teachings all throughout the Bible. A lot of people just don't. They're just into like Western Christianity, which the Baptists, the Mormons, the Catholics. All of that comes out of that is Western Christianity, and it is. I think, like I said, Alan Watts. The best definition for it is what Alan Watts, the theologian and Buddhist and theologian philosopher, said. Was just he described it as a Western racist, fascist, white supremacist death cult. I mean, that's the best way to describe it, and it's true. And I may even play that. I may play a clip from him before I go. But let's go over some verses just to show you what I mean. So now Matthew 13. I'm gonna start with Matthew 13 and 24, right? And it's a parable of the wheat and the tares. Now the wheat and the tares, really, I'm gonna go over that. But what that talks about is these hybrids that were kind of, I guess you could say, brought onto the planet, right? And you'll see, who they are. And I'm gonna touch on that, right? You can hybridize races, right? And so that's why the Bible outlawed like race mixing and integration and diversity. But anyway, so let's look at that. So Matthew, right, 24, what does it say? He said, in 13:24, he says, another parable put forth, saying, the kingdom of heaven is likened to a man which sowed good seed in the field. But while men slept, an enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. Right? And when the blade sprang up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. Right? And man would say an enemy has done this. Right? And he says, should we gather them up? Should we gather up the tares? And he said, now this is where it gets into a prophecy. He said, no, because you're going to destroy everything now, right? If you gather up the tares, you also root up the wheat. What is a tare? A tare looks just like a wheat plant, but it's not, right? It has no nutritional value, but it looks identical to a wheat plant, right? So right here, he's talking about hybrid humans, which look just like humans, but they're not. And some of these aliens too can appear, right? Hybrid, they look like humans, but they're not, right? And so he says, let them both grow until the time of the harvest. And in the time of the harvest, I will tell the reapers who gather ye together first the tares and bind them in bundles and burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. Now, who are the reapers? Well, you go to the book of Job, and you can find out who the reapers are, right? That are going to gather the wheat and the tares. Now, let's jump over there. So let's go from here. We're going to go over to Job real quick, right? To the book of Job, Job 3. Now, here are the reapers. The reapers are soldiers, right? The army of the locusts described in the book of Joel. And he said, and then also if you go to Matthew, it talks about the prophecy of Job. Which I believe, Job was written before Matthew. Job's in the Old Testament was written, it was a prophecy before Matthew. Right? And he says, they tell you two things, that the whole Jesus saves concept is bullshit. Why? Because somebody is tares that's going to be burned, bound, and burned. Right? So Jesus saves everybody. Right? And there's no such thing. Jesus is not a name, it's a title. It just means anointed Messiah. Nobody knows the name of this particular individual general who leads an army. We just know his title, which is Lord of Hosts, which means general of an army. Right? And that's where you get the term Lord from. Right? So the reapers that he spoke of are the armies that are spoke of in Job. Right? So we go over to Job chapter 3, which is another prophecy that ties into Matthew. What does it say? He says, he tells you in Joel, the prophecy of Joel tells you the reason for the army attacking the earth, right? So we're talking about what would look like an alien invasion, but it's not. It's a salvation event spoken of in the Bible in the book of Revelation, right? And I may go into that real quick. So he talks about a captive people, right, who descended from Judah and Jerusalem, right, or remnants. And he said, I will gather all nations and bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat is a city outside of Israel. It's a small town. And plead with my people, my heritage, Israel. Israel here, he's not talking about Israel, the country built in 1948, installed in the Middle East. He's talking about a bloodline. He said who they have scattered among the nations. That's how you know he's talking about a bloodline, right? Because in Israel today, you have people gathered together. So you can't be gathered and scattered at the same time. That doesn't make any sense, right? So it's really not that complicated. People try to make it all complicated. It's going to be kind of tricky, but it's not. It's actually super easy in some cases. And he says that they have, in Israel, who they have scattered. So you say, well, are the people today in the state of, if he's talking about the state of Israel, are the people in the state of Israel scattered? Well, how could you be scattered if you're all in the same place? Right? So no, he's not talking about them. He's talking about a bloodline of people. Right? And you parted my land. So what is he talking about? He's talking about slaves and colonization. Right? Whom they have scattered among the nations, right? And parted my land. So here he's talking about slavery and colonization. You parted the land, and you took the land, and then you cut it. Like the United States is 50 states, 50 parts, right? Now, the United States, when it began, it was just one country, North America, inhabited by the Indians who lived in different areas, the American Indian. And then they came and took the land, and they, as he said, they parted the land, made 50 states out of it. And they do that everywhere they go, like South Africa, right? Like Dominican Republic and Haiti was one country. They parted it and they split it into two, right? You had the French on one side, the Spanish on the other. So they parted the land, right? So he says, you parted my land. He's talking about slavery and colonization, right? And so then he says, and here he further describes slavery and colonization. He says, and they have cast lots for my people. That means you sold my people. Like, I got a nigga over here going once, going twice, going three times, nigga, girl, whatever, right? Indian girl, whatever. So he says that, and you sold boys for a harlot, meaning homosexuality. You sold boys, little boys, so you could turn them into whores to have sex with, and you sold little girls for traded for bottles of wine, right? So you're talking about pedophilia, child rape, right? Selling children for bottles of wine. And so he says here in verse 4, you shall be paid back for that, right? You will get a swift recompense at the time. Now, he goes on to describe that. He said, the children of Judah and Jerusalem, you sold, here again, slavery and colonization. When you sell people, what is that? You sold them, right? Unto the Grecians, right? That means you sold them to the people from Greece. And you removed all of the people from their borders. He said, they will be raised by the Messiah, right? The Lord of hosts, from the place where you sold them, and you will get a recompense, right? On your own head. Now, so he's saying the people that have done slavery and colonization, been involved in that most recently, right? And who parted the land. So it can't just be like, for instance, the slave trade in Libya today, right? No doubt the Arabs will be gathered up, right? But they haven't necessarily parted Libya. They didn't part Africa up. The colonizers did, right? Some of them are, but generally, right? The modern colonists, so you know what they're talking about, right? And he says, you will be sold, your children, right, into that, and you will be sold and split up. The Lord has spoken this. Who is the Lord? The Lord of hosts, the general. Lord of hosts means general of the army in space and in heaven. But they don't teach you that in Sunday school and in church, right? So it tells you, it describes everything that's going to happen in these prophecies soon, right? And it said, proclaim this among the Gentiles, prepare for war, right? Now, he's saying that it's a prophecy. So the Gentiles, we said, well, who are the Gentiles? The Gentiles are anybody outside of those 12 bloodlines, right? So if you didn't descend, if your tribes of the earth today descend from the 12 bloodlines, you would be considered a Gentile. And the prophecy is that you will, see, there's no such thing as Jesus saves in the Bible. That's goes back to what Alan Watts said. That would be considered propaganda put forward by Satan, right? Which is basically what Alan Watts said is a Western, which is a propaganda tool that comes out of a Western Christian, racist, fascist, white supremacist death cult. You get the Nazis and Americans, and you see all the stuff that they've done. And so he says, prepare for war. Now, I'll touch on that. What war is he talking about? Is it a war that happened, a war to come? It's a prophecy of a war to come. So we're talking about basically there's going to be race wars, there's going to be civil war, and then there's going to be an interplanetary war, right? And I'll get into that, right? So, but let's do the rest of this. I'm gonna go through this and then I'm gonna rap. I'm gonna try to just kind of go through it and I'm gonna rap. And he says, here again, he says, "Come all ye heathens." Again, heathens and Gentiles is the same thing. People outside of the original bloodline, right? Now what it is, they're gonna be alien hybrids. Also, would be the hybridized races of the planet would be considered. These people are considered heathens and Gentiles, right? And who hybridized them? They're not natural. They're not the organic people of the earth, right? And we're going to talk about that in a second. Now, it says right here, right? There I will sit to judge all the heathen round about. So all of the non-bloodline races, non-organic bloodline races and groups will be gathered and judged, right? Why? It just told you in the beginning, for slavery and colonization, right? You will be judged, right? And he says it right here. Why? You part of my land and you scattered and enslaved my people, right? So the judgment of God, like they said, well, you're going to be judged. You hear all these white people and these different groups say, you're going to be judged because of abortion. Where is that written in the Bible? Where does it say the earth is going to be the war that's going to take place, the interplanetary peace, right? When these armies come that is spoken of in Joel, is going to happen because of abortion. It doesn't. It tells you why. It's slavery and colonization. Right? And so it goes on to say, he goes on to say this: Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom a desolate wilderness for the violence against the children of Judah, because you have shed innocent blood in their land. Right? Who has done this? Shed all the innocent. And so Egypt, why is Egypt going to be destroyed? Because the pyramids were built by aliens. These alien races, Satan being the head alien, Antichrist, etc., right? So I'm not going to get into all of that. Some of that you got to study for yourself. I'm kind of like the Buddha say, a finger pointing at the moon. Right? I'm just going to point you in that direction. You have to figure the rest out on your own. Just like I did. But Egypt, those pyramids were built by aliens. Elon Musk said it, right? And so, yeah, so Egypt is going to be destroyed, as it's predicted in the Bible, right? Because of those pyramids. The pyramids are going to be wiped out during the period of the Interplanetary War, right? And the Lord of Hosts is going to do it, right? They're going to have these ships, blue-green lasers striking the pyramids and turn them into dust and rubble, right? It said, but the bloodlines of the Judeans shall be saved, right? And it said, for I will cleanse the blood that I have not cleansed. The Lord dwell in Zion. And it goes on to talk about the army of the locusts. Now, so I'm going to jump over here to Jeremiah 4:7. The lion is come from the thicket. The destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. He is gone forth from his place to make the land desolate, and thy cities shall be laid waste without an inhabitant. So here again, it says something I wanted to touch on. If you always get these people talking about Jesus saves, and Jesus is going to save you. Jesus, I don't know where they get this from, right? Again, it goes back to what Alan Watts said, that Western Christianity is a white supremacist, racist, death cult, fascist propaganda. It has nothing really to do with the scriptures in the Bible. It's just, it's total bullshit, right? And so you see in Jeremiah 4:7, again, the whole thing is reputed, right? Again, it's just totally reputed. It's a prophecy to come, right? Where all Gentiles shall be destroyed. He said there, cities are going to be destroyed, and there's not going to be one person left. That means everybody. Not even a dog, not a cat, not a mouse, not a rat, not a roach. Right? It's a prophecy. It says that lion has come from the thicket, and the destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. That's correct. The destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. That's a prophecy, right? And that time is fast approaching. That's what all the UFO stuff is about. Right? These are the herald, these are the scouts. The UFOs are the scouts before the destroyer of the Gentiles. You see? Because he's on his way. So he's gone forth from his place, and he shall make the land desolate. The question is, what land is he going to make desolate? Right? If Jesus saves everybody, when you make something desolate, you destroy everything. So where is he going to make desolate? So the whole Jesus saves and all that kind of shit they teach you in the Bible, that's not actually in the Bible. Right? Jesus does save his people, right? In certain bloodlines and groups of people. Right? But there's no such person as Jesus. Jesus Christ is not a name, actually, it's a title. The Messiah, all you know about the Messiah is that his title. How do you know that? Because he's called the Lord, or the Lord of hosts, which means general of an army in space and in heaven. So you know that he's coming from heaven. And you know that he's in spaceships because Lord of hosts says space. It says Lord, it says the Lord of hosts means general, which you know he's a general of an army, leader of an army, in heaven, which space, right? Space force that the U.S. has, and on earth. That's what that means. That's what Lord of hosts means when you see it written in the Bible. They never teach you that. They never teach you what Lord actually means. Right? What that's a reference to, right? But it says that he shall destroy all Gentiles, right? When he comes forth from his place, and he shall make the land desolate, and all the cities of the Gentiles shall be laid waste, and he shall destroy, there won't be one person left. Once the judgment comes, when he judges these places, when he makes his judgment, right? When New Jerusalem comes down out of the sky, which is a huge spaceship like the Death Star in Star Wars, right? These huge spaceships, they're going to destroy the certain, large swath parts of the earth, large cities, personally. Then they're gonna wipe out whole cities and everybody in it and everything in them. Because how do we know? It says it right here on the screen, Jeremiah 4:7, right? That's how you know. There will not be one person left. Not a dog, not a cat, not a rat, not anything is going to escape these blue-green lasers that they're going to shoot from their ships. It tells you right here in Jeremiah, right? That the land shall be made desolate with these laser weapons. And who is going to be destroyed? The Gentiles. I told the chick that. She said, "Oh, you the devil." I'm like, "No, you stupid. What are you talking about? That devil crap? Get out of here. You don't even know what that means." She said something about. I said, I don't know what the fuck but anyway, she was talking some foolishness. I'm like, Dad, you don't know what you're talking about. There is no such. That whole Jesus saves and all that crap that they teach you, is foolishness. It's not biblically based, right? It comes from that old propaganda, and I'm going to show you where that comes from too, right? But I just want to debunk all of that bullshit, right? Because the prophecies all say the same thing. Like Jeremiah, you can swing Jeremiah back to Joel. Same thing. Right? When he says, I'm gonna give you a recompense on your head for the people you sold, right? He didn't say I'm gonna save you for the people you sold in the land that you took and split up. He said, I'm going to recompense you. And you go to Jeremiah, and he said, I'm going to make you desolate, and whole city shall be wiped clean for this infraction. Right? So, you know, it's obvious who he's talking about. What they're saying. And it says the same thing over and over and over and over again. Right? Anywhere you go in the Bible, it says the same fucking thing. Jeremiah, Joel, you know, I'm going to jump over to Matthew. It says the same thing. He said in the harvest, he's going to burn them. Just like weeds in a barn, I'm going to burn them. Well, it says that right here, burn them all. And it says in Jeremiah, he says, I'm going to make it desolate. So Jeremiah, Matthew, Joel, all say the same fucking thing. But you ask yourself, where do you get this Jesus saves? Where are they getting this Jesus save shit from? Because they're not getting it from the Bible. They're just making it up. They're picking some, you know, shit out of context and they're saying, making up this weird propaganda that has nothing to do with the Bible, the truth of the Bible. So you have to kind of get into the occult, understand how the Bible to really get the true meaning of the prophecy, the prophecies that are there, right? Because the Bible tells you, right? It says, believe in me as the prophecy, as the scripture has said. It doesn't say believe in the prophecy as Joel Osteen has said. The gospel of prosperity, Jesus saves. Where is that written in that? They're just making shit up. Right? But these prophecies all say the same thing over and over and over again. But let's move along. Oh, but so let me touch on this real quick. So when Matthew, he talks about the wheat and the tare, and the enemy has done this. Now that is a reference to the book of Ezra. We're going to get into that real quick. Now, what is a tare? I said it looks like humans, but it's not. Let's look at this story, right? Now, this is a story where you have, I'm not going to play this. Let me play a little bit of this.
Oh, good morning to you. You know, just the weekend, I looked at that store shop and I thought, which sunscreen do I choose? It's so confusing. Well, it turns out that SPF number we're so worried about might not match what's really inside that bottle.
I'm not going to play that. But an 11-year-old girl allergic to sunlight, right? So when you see these people, right, that burn in the sun like vampires, right? You see the movies with the vampires, and the vampires burn in the sun, right? And the vampires are kind of like these alien creatures, right? That's a hint, right? People need sunblock. Why? Because they're not organic. And so the sun burns them. And they're allergic to sunlight, right? Why would you be allergic to the sun? Right? That you were born under, that your ancestors for hundreds of thousands, if not, years or whatever, were born under. Why would you be allergic to that sun? It's a hint that you're not organic. You're an inorganic being, right? And because of that, you burn in the sun. You're not a child of the sun, right? And so it burns you. And you become allergic to it because you're inorganic. You see? Just a hint, right? I'm not going to get too deep into that, right? But that goes into the reason it tears back to Matthew where he says, but while men slept, an enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and then went his way, right? And when the blade sprung up and brought forth fruit, appeared the tares also. See? These tares appeared. These creatures that burn these people that burn in the sun. The wheat and the tare look the same, but they're not. They're different, right? The wheat doesn't burn in the sun, but the tares burn in the sun. So you have hybridized humans, right? Shit like that. Right? Hybridized human races. So, and also, how do we know this? That's Matthew. So anyway, let's go. I'm gonna go some more. So I hit all of that, right? And these are developed. These come from the aliens being on Earth, right? So let's go to Joel. Let's go to the book of Revelation of Ezra. A lot of people don't know the Revelation of Ezra, right? Shout out to Big Judah, right? He went over this and kind of hit me, kind of pointed the finger at this, and then I picked up on it. But I found, I took a deep dive into that. So before I wrap, I'm gonna wrap. I'm just gonna be not quick, but I want to make it thorough. But I want to keep moving. Now let's look at the Revelation and Prophecy of Ezra, one of the most accurate prophets in the Bible, right? Now I wanna go over a couple of things real quick in here. Right, let me see. Now, yeah, here in the book of Ezra, in the prophecy, Ezra talks about Herod, right? He said, this is Herod, who for a time was a king in order to put to death the children from 2 years, right, and under. Woe to his soul, right? Now, he talking about Herod and the prediction of Herod trying to kill a Judean baby hundreds, if not thousands of years before it happened. Because I believe, if I'm correct, Ezra is way before, the period of Ezra is way, in the book of Ezra is written way before the time of the so-called Judean Christ, right? And in the first incarnation of that, and that whole thing, that whole story, right? Event, etc., right? Before these events. And he predicted it right here. He talked about King Herod, right? Everybody knows Herod. Everybody knows that story. I don't have to get into it. So you have to ask yourself in the book of Ezra, right? How was he saw Herod in the future, who was a king and was going to kill children, right? Because he was told to by the Antichrist, right? Now, so let's go forward. This is all prophecies of Ezra, right? But he's saying how he was shown all these things. Most Christians don't read the prophecies of Ezra. And that's why they don't have good understanding. They lack understanding. Because if you did, you would know, number one, Ezra predicted Herod. And you don't know that. So a lot of you think the Bible was fake, but if it's fake, how the fuck would he have predicted Herod? Which is not up for debate. You can't disprove that, right? It's a fact. Now what else, man? If he predicted Herod, what else did he get right? He talked about the Antichrist. So we have a lot of people, like the girl, she said, you're Satan, because she couldn't, when people can't debate you, they'll try to just start saying stupid shit like, you're the devil, you're Satan, you're the Antichrist, blah, blah. And I'm like, you don't even know what that is. And most people don't, right? But what is it? Well, back to Ezra. I'm gonna hit this and then I'm gonna go. Right? The Antichrist, Ezra talks about that. Right? So you can get understanding. Right? He says here, this is he who said, I am the Son of God, that made stones bread, water wine, and the prophet. So he was having a discussion in a dream with an angel, Michael, who was this guy in the dream. And he said, they took me away and I saw there a man bound in chains. So he saw the Antichrist as a man bound in chains. And I asked Michael, who is this? And he said, this is the one who said, I am the Son of God. I made stones bread and water wine. And Ezra the prophet said, my Lord, let me know what is his form, and I shall tell the race of men that they may not believe in him. And Michael said to me, his form, he described him. What he described was not a human. Right? He said the form is like the countenance of a wild beast. His right eye like the star that rising the moon, and the other without motion. His mouth 1 cubit, his teeth span long, his fingers like claws, scythes, which is a knife, right? Like scythes, which is a knife or claws. His feet track 2 spans, his face, the inscription, Antichrist, Satan, right? So what is he describing? What is he telling you? He's telling you that Satan, or the Antichrist, is not a human. And these non-human entities, which basically it seems like he's describing a reptilian, right? Created the propaganda tool of Western Christianity. They're behind it. So when you see Western Christianity, and when these people are talking this Jesus saviors and all this crap, it comes from these aliens, right? It comes from the Antichrist, these aliens, Satan, whatever, the devil, whatever you want to call it, right? And they've been putting this shit out for hundreds of years. They created this, right? When he says, right? When he says, right? So they created this, right? They created this. What does he say in Ezra? He said, they took me to the north, and I saw a man bound with iron chains. And I asked Michael, who is this? And he said to me, this is he who said, I am the Son of God, that I made stones bread and water wine. That's him. That's this. So he was showing the Antichrist. So when you see this, what are you seeing? The Antichrist. Anybody with these pictures on their walls are agents of Satan, whether they know knowingly or unknowingly. Right? Anybody teaching these so-called doctrines are agents of the Antichrist, Satan, whether they knowingly or unknowingly. Jesus saves and all that bullshit. That's just Antichrist satanic doctrine. Right? According to the book of Ezra. Not according to Black Bodhisattva. According to what's written in your scriptures. Right? What's written in the book of Ezra. Right? This is the Antichrist. Why? Because this is, Michael said in the dream, showed him, this is he who said, I am the Son of God. Right? I am the Son of God. I made stones bread and water wine. But then Ezra went on to say something very interesting. He said, show me his true form. And then he describes a beast, right? A creature, non-human. So he didn't describe this when he said his true form, right? He said, show me, he asked Michael, he sensed something was wrong. And he said, I don't want them to believe in him. Show me his true form right here, right? So Michael showed him this, but then Ezra said, show me his true form. And he told him, well, he looks, his true form is that of a beastly creature, right? Who is the Antichrist, not a human. So people say, well, Barack Obama is the Antichrist. But that would mean Barack Obama would have to be basically a reptilian, disguised as, somehow disguising himself as a mulatto, which is possible. I mean, technology is amazing, so that's quite possible. But it doesn't really fit, right? And that's not really written anywhere. So that's a whole nother thing, right? And it says, he has been exalted to heaven. Let me finish this out. But he shall go to hell, Hades, right? At one time a child and another an old man, right? Again, that's him, right? Because here's the old man. If you go, we all know one time a child, right? Christmas, baby Jesus, right? And one time, I got the child and the old man. Right? One time the baby Jesus, and then the old man, right? And one time the child, and then the old man. You see? So it's all written in the prophecies, in the occult, the understanding of the prophet, the hidden understanding of the prophecy, right? And he shall become a child and another an old man. And the prophet said, how dost thou permit him that he deceives the race of men? And God said, listen, right? And God, people say God, everyone idea what God means. God, let me just say this before I go. God means basically the a force and power behind the universe. That's it, right? So it says, he becomes both child and old man, and no one believes he is my beloved son, right? That's the time we're living in now. Nobody believes that this is the Messiah. Everybody knows. That's how you know it's getting close to the prophecies coming to an end. Because he said that. He said, listen, my son, nobody shall believe this is my beloved son. You see? He says that right here. Right? And after that, when people stop believing that, a trumpet and the tomb shall open, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible. You see? The people that was dead to these knowledge, they shall wake up, and you won't be able to corrupt them. Right? Now, it goes on, I'm going to do the rest of this. It says, now hearing a dreadful, let's go through this, a dreadful threatening, meaning the prophecies. See, the prophecies, what is a dreadful threatening? The adversary hearing a dreadful threatening. What is that? A dreadful threatening is the prophecies. That's why they came up with this, because they had heard the dreadful threatening of the prophecies to begin to be told. So they came up with this to cover it up and to confuse people, because they couldn't control every single thing. So he says, the adversary, the Antichrist, these creatures, hearing the prophecies, tried to hide in outer darkness. What is that? That's outer space. Right? But he said, he told Ezra, in the end, the heaven and the earth shall be destroyed. Right? So you won't be able to hide in Mars. The Space Force not going to help you. You won't, right? He said, I'm going to destroy the heavens. I'm going to destroy space, things in space, and on the earth. He said, and I shall burn the heavens. I'm going to burn space. Meaning they're going to fight. There's going to be a war in heaven. Meaning you're going to see an interplanetary war. You're going to see wars on the earth. You're going to see wars in space. The UFO war, whatever you want to call it, right? Invasion, alien, all the movies. That's what that's about. That's where they get this from, right? He said, I shall burn the heaven, Ezra, and I shall burn the earth. And the prophet said, how has the heaven sinned? And God said, there is evil in the heaven. There is evil, and God told Ezra, the force of the universe, right? The force behind the universe, not an old man or old white man, whatever, right? He's basically saying this, the forces behind the universe, right? I don't want to get too deep into that. But he said he basically received these messages that he would destroy, there was evil in space. Now who the fuck could he be talking about? Duh. Nobody can be that stupid. You know what he's talking about, right? So he says there's evil in space, and I shall destroy it. Right? How? With angels? No. With an army. The Lord of hosts and the army he's going to destroy it. Right? He said there is evil there, right? And the prophet said, how is the earth sinned? And God said, since the adversary, having heard Job threatened, shall be hidden, even on account of this, I will melt the whole earth, Ezra. the pyramid's gonna be turned to dust. The underground bases where these people hide, where these aliens, these reptilians, you know, all this foolishness that's going on. He said, I'm gonna melt the whole earth and get rid of them. And it says it right in the book of Ezra, right? He said, these are the opponent of the race of men, right? And the prophet said, have mercy, Lord, on the race of the Christian, right? So anyway, I'm gonna wrap up right here, because here he wraps up with the explaining the, you know, basically the wars that are going to take place, right? That are going to be brought forth by the Messiah, the Lord of hosts, the general of the army, right? And so, yeah, so that Ezra wraps that up, right? In the beginning, because Ezra is one of the first books of the Bible. So he described the end in the very beginning. Most people don't know that about the Bible, because they don't read, they're not taught the book of Ezra, because it's pretty much wiped out of the Bible, right? And so they let people mislead them. So on that, and that explains everything, right? It explains itself. It's all there. Joel, Jeremiah, Robert, you know, Ezra, Matthew, right? It's all right there in front of you. The question is whether, you know, you connect the dots or not, you know. But it's all right in front of you. Right? And it's all been there for a very long time. You know what I mean? So on that, I'm gonna read this and I'm gonna go. Jeremiah 4:7. The lion has come up from his thicket, and the destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. He has gone forth from his place to make thy land desolate, and thy city shall be laid waste without an inhabitant. Right? And on that, that's all I got. I'll see y'all in the next one.